Hello and welcome to the Open Marketer. I'm Ansh and today we are going to take a look at the latest release of LibreOffice 26.2. So, just as a reminder, LibreOffice gets 2 releases every year. And since February 2024, LibreOffice has been using year.month version naming system, and on the 4th of February of 2026, LibreOffice 26.2 was released. Now, for those of you who want to go through the full list of features and improvements, I will leave the link to the release notes in the video description. However, in today's video, we will take a look at some of those more visible changes that will impact your workflow, and I will also look at some of the bugs that I had uncovered while making my previous videos and see if they are fixed. Lastly, I'm going to show the features of this new release in a Fedora virtual machine. So let's get into it. So here we are in the Fedora virtual machine, and I have set up a few files to take you through the features. First up, the Markdown support. So I'm going to open this ODT document in Writer. Yeah, so here is the file that I have created to demo the Markdown support that LibreOffice has recently added. And I have basically just created some headings and some bullet lists and some numbered lists. I've also created a table and I have added a hyperlink. So to save this file, which is an ODT file, as a Markdown file, we will go to File in your tab interface. We go to Save here and we'll go to Save As. There in the dialog box that appears, let's select Markdown from this dropdown, which is right here. And I'm going to leave it as this Writer demo and save. Now, once you do that, you will get a non-standard file format pop-up to show that ODT is the right format. Not all the formatting can be saved in a MD document, but let's just go ahead with the Markdown format because that is recently added. So once we do that and we go back to our file manager, we will see that the Markdown file has been created. I can open this in a text editor, for instance, or if you have a special Markdown application, you can open in that as well. And that's the file that I had created. There is a level 1 heading and level 2 headings, the same unordered and numbered lists. And we also have table in the right format. The hyperlink also looks like it's in the right format. Now to bring this full circle, I'm going to close this MD document in the text file. Now you can also open this Markdown file in LibreOffice. I'm going to close my previous. I'm going to open this in LibreOffice Writer. So scroll down to here and let's open. And there you have it. The file is now correctly displayed with all the formatting that we had created, and the headings and heading 2 all have come up correctly. The thing that is missing is, of course, the font style. The font style in the ODT document was different. It was Advaita Sans, but here it is Liberation Sans, which is the default in LibreOffice. So that was the newly added Markdown support in Writer. While I have selected this text, I want to quickly show the next change, which is the color picker. Now this is a Linux only change. So if you are using GTK themes versus Qt themes, the color picker will default to the native GTK or Qt framework. Since I am using this on Fedora GNOME, LibreOffice will default to the GTK color picker. So if I choose custom color, I'm getting a different color picker interface than the default. So I was a little critical about the previous color picker because it did not have an eyedropper tool. The GTK one does have an eyedropper tool by default. So if I select this here, and if I were to, for example, click anywhere on the screen, I can select the color of my choice, and that would set the font color exactly the way I want, instead of copying hex codes from the internet or anywhere else. This is a welcome change for me. However, if you are used to the previous workflow, you can, of course, change it back. You can just go to options from here or from tools options, and under general, within these dialogues, you can select use LibreOffice color dialog and click on apply. Now, if I were to do the same exercise with another word, you can see that the color picker has changed. This is the default color picker that LibreOffice comes with. And in case this is what you are more familiar with and you prefer, you can use this as well. So that was the change in the color picker tool in LibreOffice. And for the next change, I'm going to switch to Impress to talk about vertical tabs in navigation. While you are on LibreOffice Impress, there are a few things to quickly take a note of. The layouts area has changed a little. There is something in the release notes that does talk about this change. It's not major and doesn't really affect my workflows. Let's look at styles. Now, if you remember, I think at this point I should open a 25.8. Here we are in LibreOffice 25.8, and this is the layout difference that I was talking about. Quickly to show you what we were dealing with in 26.2. The layouts area is just looks a little different. Now, if I go back to 25.8 in a blank layout, if I were to go to styles and I select any of these drawing styles, click on edit, we will see this pop-up appear where they have all the different settings on the left-hand side in a vertical fashion, and you can go through all of these settings and change to your liking. If I were to, however, go on the presentation styles and edit, for example, the title, the pop-up window that appears has the settings in a horizontal format. And of course, if I were to select, for example, font from the whole top row becomes the bottom row. And that is how things were in LibreOffice 25.8. So these are both under styles, but presentation styles somehow have a different settings pop up versus the drawing styles. So I'm going to go back to 26.2 and show you how things are different. So here we are in 26.2. I'm going to go to styles again, select default drawing styles. So this is what you are greeted with. The graphic styles under and default drawing styles, they have their vertical tabs. They also have added some visual elements, so it is easy to understand, just makes it a little easy to understand what we are working with. And the same thing if I go and do under presentation styles and pick up title, for instance, I can see that here too they have a vertical layout with the same kind of icons with it, which makes the interface a little bit more consistent versus what we had in the previous release. The other thing to notice was bullets. So there are few new choices of default bullet styles that have been added in LibreOffice 26.2 as well. So those were the changes with vertical tabs and bulleting. Now for the next two changes, the final two changes, I'm going to head to Calc on 26.2. I will also show you the difference of how this was previously implemented in 25.8 just for reference. So on the screen you are looking at 25.8, the previous release basically of LibreOffice, and I have just created a simple data set and a chart associated with it. If you were to update, for example, the colors, you can just go on the properties panel here and you can select one of these colors. However, when you are hovering on these colors, you don't see how the chart would change, and that is something that has been updated in the recent release. So let me switch to 26.2. If I were to take this chart, for example, and double click in it and try to change the color, I can just hover on these different choices and the chart will change its color without me committing to any of these. So that is a very nice change. If you are working with area charts, for instance, and you can double click on that, and same thing also works in area charts. I can select this purple color. However, this doesn't seem to work in pie charts. So if I were to select this pie chart here and hover on any of these colors, it doesn't work. I click on them, then only then this change works. But just hovering doesn't work on pie charts. So yeah, that is a bug that probably needs to be fixed in the next point release, hopefully. And finally, we'll take a look at how JSON or XML documents can be now automatically mapped into sheets in Calc. So I'm going to go back to my file manager, and if I were to just right click on this JSON file, which is also available on the LibreOffice release notes, I right click on it and I open with, let's just open with text editor to get a sense of what data we are working with. And here looks like some kind of an inventory management JSON file. It has some wireless mouse and some details of that, and 3 items basically, and what is their current status, what kind of pricing is there. If I were to right click on this file and open in LibreOffice Calc, you will see that LibreOffice understands that they are different columns, and how each of these items details will be mapped to each of these different columns. And the JSON file, the same can be applied to also XML files. I haven't stress tested this, but this is definitely a good feature to have in case you need to do some ad hoc analysis. Now that's all the features that I wanted to cover today. But as I said, there are many more improvements that the LibreOffice team has worked on. By the way, this is the same JSON file that I was using. But there are all these different improvements and features that have been added to all the applications within LibreOffice. So I suggest that you should take a look at what all changes have been done. As a regular user of LibreOffice, I wanted to also take a quick look at 2 of the bugs that I had unearthed while I was creating my previous videos. I'm going to do that in Impress. So there were 2 annoying bugs at my end. First, I'm just going to open LibreOffice 25.8 for reference. And if I were to create a line here, and I select this, and I go to the properties, and if I want to increase the thickness of this line, you can see this white box that appears in the dark mode of LibreOffice and makes the options illegible to read. Let's see if this has been fixed. If I were to switch to my virtual machine and open Impress, so yeah, here we have a blank presentation, and if I were to create a line again here and I go thickness, you can see that this white background that was there in 25.8 has been solved. I can just choose one of these options, and I can, without changing things in the bottom half of this pop-up. The other bug that we looked at was when we were applying a new theme. I need to, one of the layouts other than the blank layout, and go to Format, Themes, and let's say I go to Breeze. Let's say I select Breeze as the default, and I click OK. Somehow the dotted lines disappear from both of these elements of the slide. Now, if I were to change the layouts, it doesn't behave in the right way. So that bug is still there. Hopefully this gets sorted out in the next release. So those were some of the highlights from the new release of LibreOffice. Unlike the 25.8 release, I didn't see anything that would make me wait for the next point release update to only then update LibreOffice on my production system. So I like this release quite a lot. Some very welcome changes have been added, and I would recommend you to try it, especially if you are trying to get away from big tech and have more control on your data. If you found this review helpful, please like and share and subscribe for any future updates. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.